Alrighty, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to yet another news report here from Radio Tekkers. We're talking Martin Odegaard transferring back to Arsenal. I am Tanner, aka the Texas Gentleman, and I'm here with Radio Tekkers field analyst Chris. Chris, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing better than you've told me that I look. I mean, honestly, before we started recording, Tan's like, "Oh, honestly, you're such a mess. Can you sort yourself out, Chris?"
Goodness. But I just want to make sure you're okay. That's all.
Yeah.
Martin Odegaard.
Because you don't look it.
You look terrible. Martin Odegaard to Arsenal, Chris. This seemed kind of, it was long rumored. Arsenal had also tried maybe looking into Phil Coutinho from Barcelona. Odegaard was even at Arsenal from winter last year onwards. Didn't look like Real Madrid were wanting to sell Odegaard off. But here we are. It looks like Martin Odegaard is about to do his final paperwork and do his medicals for Arsenal and make his comeback.
Yeah, I know Zinedine Zidane was obviously a big fan of Odegaard. He spoke openly about how he wanted to take him back into the Real Madrid team, sort of bring him back into the fold almost. But obviously Zidane's not there anymore. Ancelotti's come in. So he obviously has a different idea of who he wants to bring in and build the squad around. And obviously Odegaard isn't one of those players. We've seen, with the, sort of phasing out of Isco, Real Madrid, they're moving away from sort of number 10s. Which is what Odegaard is. He can, operate in half spaces. He can operate out wide, but he is mainly number 10. And that's what Real Madrid seem to be sort of moving away from. So I think the transfer makes sense, and they got a pretty good fee through Arsenal. So, yeah, it makes sense, really, from Real Madrid.
Well, and just with that, you kind of actually answered the question I was going to throw at you right off the bat, which is what does Odegaard bring to Arsenal? I mean, it's clear that he's a player who plays up the middle in that number 10 spot. That's what he did from winter onwards through the remainder of the season last year, or earlier this year, last season. I guess, what does this mean then? I'm going to throw you a curveball here, if you don't mind.
All right.
Emil Smith-Rowe got the number 10 shirt, and he was supposed to be playing in that role this year. But now that Odegaard seems to be happening, I guess, how would Arsenal accommodate both Odegaard and Smith-Rowe?
Whilst they do play in similar positions, Smith-Rowe and Odegaard, they are quite different sort of players. They have different qualities. Smith-Rowe, for example, he's a more dynamic mover. He's more of a shuttler. He has a higher expected goals plus expected assist rate than Odegaard. He's got more progressive dribbles. This is based off of last season's stats where they had similar amounts of numbers. He has more progressive dribbles. He wins more aerial duels. He's a better presser, and he tends to press higher up the pitch as well. Whereas Odegaard's more of a passive, creative number 10 type. He'll have more progressive passes, or he has the highest chances created per 90. Not just with Smith-Rowe, with the entire Arsenal team last season. 2.3 chances created per 90, which is, a significant amount, to be fair.
It's good.
And I think that they do bring different sort of styles to, in the styles of play. I think, they could both be accommodated within the same system. Say if you played, Smith-Rowe on the left with Odegaard as that number 10, where play sort of builds around. You've got Smith-Rowe on one side, then you can have, Saka or Pepe playing on the right, being the more dynamic players on the wings, whereas Odegaard's more of a static player as in that number 10 role.
Okay. That definitely makes a lot of sense. As far as I guess as far as Odegaard coming to Arsenal is concerned, like I said, this kind of comes out of nowhere. Is there any reason why this wouldn't work, Chris?
Like I say, there are, there are weaknesses to Odegaard. Like I say, he's not a very dynamic player. He doesn't tend to press high up the pitch. He's a very passive player, which means, similar to, the last proper number 10 that Arsenal really had, which was Mesut Ozil. He's more of a luxury player. He's not, someone who's going to be grafting for 90 minutes. Which, when you've got the players around him, when you've got like Smith Rowe and Saka, if you have Thomas Partey in midfield, they can accommodate around that. But if you don't, and if the rest of the team isn't up to standards with that sort of intensity, then you'd get Odegaard like you did with Ozil. Finding a little bit isolated. He can go missing, and it's another player for Arsenal who's coming in on big wages. I mean, it's reported that he's going to be on 130,000 a week, which it's not a huge amount. I mean, you got to consider Willian's on like nearly 300 grand a week, so it's not a huge amount, but it's still another six-figure wage, which Arsenal came into this season trying to reduce the wage bill. But obviously, players like Xhaka, Torreira, players like that haven't been moved on from the club. So obviously, they're going to keep that high wage bill, and it's another gamble as well, especially considering Odegaard's. He's a luxury player. I think that's the best term for him.
Okay. So, as far as Odegaard is concerned, he brings in, again, a lot of the niceties, a lot of the feelings that maybe Arsenal fans of old like. Maybe it's a stretch that you could call him a Fabregas type player, somebody who really makes the nice passes look really nice, right? Are there any alternatives that Arsenal should have gone for instead of Martin Odegaard?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few here who I've actually got prepared. I mean, I think the main thing is that I don't think he's worth £40 million, to be quite honest with you. I think that he's a decent player, but I wouldn't say he's worth 40 million. I mean, you're looking at, for example, Leon, Houssem Aouar is a player who's been targeted by Arsenal, by Tottenham. He can play in that number 10 role. He sort of slotted in there when Fekir left Leon. He sort of played in a more advanced role, and he's done that really well. And Leon only wanted £25 million for him. Alternatively, if you want a player who's going to be even cheaper, you just got to look up north. Yanis Hadji, of Rangers, they're only wanting £10 million for him. And he's been quality. I know, obviously, there's a gulf in quality between the Scottish Premiership and the Premier League, but he's still shown his quality there. He showed it in the Europa League as well. So he is definitely a quality player, and I think for £10 million, I think that's an absolute bargain for any Premier League club. If you wanted to go with a more dynamic option, someone who has played down the middle, can also play out wide. You're looking at, Dan Juma's of Bournemouth. He's going to Villarreal for £20 million. He's a very, very good option. I think he would have fit in well at Arsenal. You're looking at Jeremy Doku, who's a player who really impressed in the Euros. Liverpool were after him. Apparently, the asking price, and I don't know how true this is, but apparently the asking price is set at around about £30 million. So again, that's another cheaper option where you could have saved money and invested it in a position where Arsenal need, more putting in. And even, you look at the game against Brentford, Brian Mbeumo, he's shone in that sort of role, in the whole, sort of going up front and playing not really in a front two, but sort of off Ivan Toney, sort of dropping back sometimes in that number 10 role. He was a brilliant forward / number 10 in the Championship. I mean, he had a goal or assist every 111 minutes last season. So he's definitely quality. And I think that, there were cheaper options that would have done just as well for Arsenal. I don't think they've gone with the best option in Odegaard, I'll say that.
Okay.
Not that he's a bad player by any means.
Well, and to that extent as well, it does seem like, the passing game for Arsenal is not the issue. It seems like goals are the issue. It seems like somebody who can break out and really make something happen and put away like the final ball, right? I don't know if Martin Odegaard is that guy per se, but this is what Arsenal have done, and we'll wait and see if this turns out to be a place where we've been proven wrong, Chris. But again, I
can definitely see it succeeding. I mean, he definitely would help in sort of unlocking defences. I think that's what he's been good at. Obviously creating the most chances per 90 in that Arsenal team last season. And that was something that we saw in the Brentford game, was that Balogun had the least amount of touches out of any player. He was absolutely isolated. And there's a cliche over in England where it feels like for the past 15 years we've been saying, "Oh, the trouble with Arsenal is they always try and walk it in," and that's even jokes in sitcoms. It's that well known. That's the butt of the joke. I mean, I don't know if you've ever watched the IT Crowd.
Yeah.
Exactly. When Moss is saying, "Oh, the trouble with Arsenal is they always try to walk it in," and that was like nearly 20 years ago now.
Yeah.
So it's been a problem. It's been a consistent problem at Arsenal for decades now, and that Odegaard could be someone who finally can manage to get that final ball up to the forwards.
Well, let's hope so, man. Let's hope so.
I'm not bothered.
A little bit of breaking news here as well as the time of this recording here. David Ornstein of The Athletic is reporting that Arsenal are also about to sign Aaron Ramsdale. I've been on record multiple times saying that this is a horrible deal, that Arsenal shouldn't have sold Emi Martinez last season, and that now they're buying a much more expensive goalkeeper to try and replace him. Chris, before we go, your initial thoughts.
I don't get it. I honestly do not get it. I like Ramsdale. I think he's a good, solid, mid-table Premier League goalkeeper. I think that's it. I think he's been unlucky with his 2 relegations. I think he was the best player at both of his teams when he's got relegated. I think that says a lot about how unlucky he's been. I think he is a decent quality goalkeeper. He's a decent Premier League goalkeeper. Yeah. I don't think he's a £30 million goalkeeper. By the same token, I don't think he's any better than Bernd Leno, who is just an average Premier League goalkeeper. You got to think. There'll be tons of goalkeepers. I haven't had time to prepare any, but there'll be tons of goalkeepers who you could get for the same price that would be miles better. So and like you said, selling Martinez for under 20 million, and now you're going to buy Ramsdale for 30 million. Like it's just awful business acumen. Like and then they wonder why Arsenal's going down the shitter. Right?
Well, I guess we'll wait and see how this one turns out as well. Yeah. Chris, this has been a wonderful time to get together and talk a little bit of Arsenal news here. Make sure that if you haven't done so already, smash that subscribe button, because Radio Tekkers is providing you with not only the best in Premier League news, but just football news in general as it breaks. We got our famous watch-alongs that we do every Premier League weekend, and then just like little news and reviews, not only for football, but also we've got reviews and news for MMA as well as the world of pro wrestling. So if again you hadn't done so already, hit that like button, smash the subscribe button, and thank you again for watching Radio Tekkers.